Hello, beautiful neighbor. Welcome to On Brit's Block. My name is Shay. I'm sitting in for Brit. She had surgery Friday. As you come in, please like this video, and if you have not subscribed, please do. This is a must-see video, very informative. Talking about narcissistic people. It will help you see the signs and understand them. I will only be showing 20 minutes of the video. I will leave the link to the full video in the bio. Let's get into this video. I will be back.
I thought I knew what a narcissist was, but I didn't.
A narcissist is not what you think. A narcissist is not a person who thinks so highly of themselves. They will take themselves down to take the other person down. You actually become physiologically addicted to this person. Everything is black and white. Everything's good or bad. You're either for them or against them. And if you're against them, then you are public enemy number one.
What are the phases of a narcissistic relationship?
They call it love bombing. Let's get married in Vegas. Let's move in together. Get me on your bank accounts. Now they've gotten you and their stories aren't holding up. Now you start to see lies. Now you start to see manipulation. I suddenly found myself in this situation feeling like I'm going crazy. Honestly, it almost took me to my knees. It was in that moment I decided, that's it, I'm getting out of this thing. You and you alone define your value. You can win. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you. I know that we're all going to learn a lot, and I want to jump right in. My mission in speaking to you today is to give somebody who is listening to your story and to all of the tools and strategies and insights that you're about to share about identifying a narcissist in your life and learning how to negotiate with them and keep your sanity and your power intact. What I want to understand is, after 20 years of litigating high net worth divorces and battling with narcissists day in and day out, can you explain how you now think about narcissism based on your experience for decades, your personal experience, and all of this extensive research that you've now done on narcissism? How do you think about the definition of a narcissist?
So a narcissist is not what you think. A narcissist is not a person who thinks so highly of themselves. It is a person who absolutely has no feeling of value internally about themselves, no feeling of value. So they have to get all of their feeling of value from external sources, which is image, mostly things related to image, which is the prestigious friends, the big houses, the money, the big cars, all of that. Degrading people, devaluing people, manipulating people, and pushing people down in order to make themselves feel better. But it's an endless amount that they need because they can never get enough. It's, completely scarcity based. It's fear based. It's all of that. So, and you're left feeling totally and completely empty, and that yet they're still starving because they can never get enough.
Rebecca, just listening to you, I just exhaled. Having dealt with narcissists in my life, it's exhausting. You do feel alone. You feel empty, because if you've ever had that experience where you're like, am I going crazy? Like, why is this person always making me feel like I'm the problem? And then they still want more no matter what you do. Mm-hmm. We're going to get into how narcissism is formed. This is fascinating stuff that you need to know. You are absolutely going to learn all of the things that Rebecca's going to teach you, the words that you should say that diffuse a narcissist, her 4-step plan that will help you get what you want, even if you're dealing with a narcissist in your life. But before we go there, could you just tell the person listening what's available to them? Because I think you get so beaten down when you're dealing with narcissism in your life that you do believe you're the problem. You do believe that something's wrong with you. And if you're listening to my words and you're feeling used and exhausted or scared, Rebecca, I want you to explain to the person listening, what could their life look like? Where could their life be if they take the time to learn the tools and the strategies that you're about to teach them so that you can keep your sanity intact. You can stand up to the narcissist in your life when it's important to do so, and so that you don't get so sucked in to the way that they go about life. Because I think that's part of the problem, is that their strategies work, which is why we get so turned around.
I want to start with you standing in your authentic power. And I love the concept of the Wizard of Oz. And I want to start with that because I just think it's so beautiful, which is that the wizard is really the narcissist in a way, which is this big head. He pretends like he's something that he's not, and he's actually this feeble little man who's afraid, right? And that's really what a narcissist is. And to me, you're like Dorothy, who's trying to find yourself. You're trying to figure out who you actually are. And what you're really trying to get to is Glinda, who knows who she is the whole time. And to me, she's sort of like your soul. There's a very subtle part of the movie, which is where Glinda is talking to the gang, and the Wicked Witch comes around, and she flies near Glinda. I don't know if you remember where she says to the Wicked Witch, "Go away, you have no power here." Do you remember that?
Yes.
That's where you're going. That's where you're going. That's that authentic power. When you can stand in your authentic power, to me, it's aligned with Source. When you are aligned with Source, you know who you are, and you are in your purpose. What people need to know is, like, once you know who you truly are, you know, you stand in your authentic power, and then that's the narcissist is like, "Go away, you have no power here."
Ooh, I love that. Don't you love that? That idea that you could stand in your power and be like, "Go away, little narcissist." And that's exactly what's happened to me. I have somebody who is very narcissistic in my life. I am not getting them out of my life, but everything you're about to learn has helped me stand in my power so they have no power over me. And that's exactly what you're going to get out of this conversation today. So that's incredible. Thank you for taking the time to explain that, Rebecca. And now that we know where we're going and what's available to you to be able to stand in your full power and be like, "Bye-bye, narcissist," I want to start with this. So, Rebecca, you've spent 20 years as one of the top-ranked lawyers, literally battling, negotiating, litigating with narcissists. You have written 3 books on the subject. You have studied this so that you can win. And you have identified that there are 3 different types of narcissists. And for you listening, this is a really important place for us to start because awareness is critical to changing anything for the better. And when you know that there are 3 different types, it's much easier to spot. And then you know what? You're going to be able to stand in your power and use the strategies and not get hooked into this. So, Rebecca, let's talk about the 3 types of narcissists that you've been researching.
Well, the 3 most common ones that you hear about are the covert, grandiose, and malignant. And there's other types of narcissists, and there's even a healthy narcissism as well. But so I want to make sure that I'm clear on that. You know, it's not that those are the only types. Well, let me start with the grandiose, which is the type that I just sort of described, which is the one that everybody normally thinks of as a narcissist. It's the one that's sort of in your face, the one that's, bragging about themselves, the one that is more impulsive. The grandiose is the one that everybody thinks of as a narcissist. I kind of think of it as your garden variety narcissist. And to me, they're the easiest ones to spot. So the covert narcissist is the one that to me, in some ways, is the stealthiest, in some ways is the more dangerous, because they're the ones that are, passive aggressive. They're your humanitarians. They're the oftentimes clergy, oftentimes doctors, lawyers, everybody thinks they're so nice. Everybody thinks they're so wonderful. Many times they present themselves as victims. Oh my gosh, life isn't fair. And so everybody rushes to take care of them. Or, they're the ones who agree to do things in your face. Oh, yes, of course I'll do that. But then they don't. Or, they take credit for your work. It's like this underlying rage. There's just like right underneath the surface, there's this rage and jealousy that only you sort of see. But everybody else thinks that they're so nice and so wonderful. But you are just constantly subjected to this underlying sort of thing, and you can't really quite put your finger on it, but you just know that there's always sort of this something, these little comments, these little jabs. Oh, what's the name of your book again? I can never quite remember. Or, like things like that. Or, oh, I'm so happy for you. Oh, that's so nice. But when you go to tell somebody about it, it's not quite enough for people to go, oh, okay. Most people think, oh, I'm sure that was inadvertent. Oh, well, she's so nice. I can't imagine that they really meant that, but you just know that taken together as a whole collectively, it's just, you feel like you're going crazy.
Can you give us an example? Give us an example, because you actually dealt with one, because I'm sitting here trying to rack my brain. Okay, do I know a covert, passive-aggressive narcissist? What am I looking for?
Absolutely. So they will start seeding their smearing, for example, in a divorce, maybe 6 months prior. So here's a way that they'll do that. They might start to say, I am so concerned about Johnny and his drinking. I'm just so concerned about him. So they couch their concern they're smearing in terms of concern. Just so worried. So worried about him. Like that to a neighbor or to a friend. I'm just so concerned. And so they start this down, early on. And then by the time the divorce actually happens, then, Johnny has a full-blown drinking problem. Well, I've been talking to you about this for months. Well, you'll testify for me against him, in the divorce for custody now, won't you? I've been telling you for months he's got a drinking problem. Now, he probably has no problem with drinking whatsoever, but, they've been laying this foundation about, concern and care. And they do it in such a way that is so plausible and so they seem like they're such a good person. They're like little things like an email chain that you get left off of, and all of a sudden you're not in a meeting that you should have been on, and there they are on an important meeting for work, and clients are like, oh, how come you weren't on that meeting? And you're like, well, I didn't get I really thought you were, I don't know how I missed you being on that email chain. I really thought you were on that. Sorry. Taking credit for your work, seeing people on particular interviews and using your own quotes, that very clearly are yours, and, that sort of thing.
Let's go to the third one. So you said there's the grandiose, the covert, passive-aggressive narcissist. What was the third?
Malignant narcissists tend to just be, they're the ones that have no problem just completely ruining your life. This is the one that will honestly just accuse you of being a child molester and you've never touched a child whatsoever. This is the one that will stalk you. They will threaten you. Violence And by the way, there can be combinations of the types of narcissists as well.
That's kind of scary. Let's keep going. And here's where I want our conversation to go next. One thing that changed my life forever when it comes to narcissism is understanding the origin of narcissism in somebody, because we throw the word around and you may believe that somebody just chooses to be a narcissist. That's not what happens. And Rebecca, you decided to dig into the psychology. And what I love about how you've researched this topic is you thought about it like a lawyer. And lawyers dig into the cases, they dig into the evidence, they dig into the precedent. And you wanted to learn about the psychology of narcissism and where it begins and how it affects somebody's ability to think, how it affects their emotions, because that's critical to you being a badass in the courtroom. And so you dug into the topic of the psychology of a narcissist with the lens of, I got to know how to win. So I got to understand how somebody comes to be like this and how this impacts their emotions and their logic and their thinking, and what you discovered and how you explain it, I think is really cool. So let's go there now. When you were researching the psychology of origin, like how someone becomes narcissistic, and obviously this is a spectrum, what did you discover?
Yeah. So what I found out, and I found this to be really, really fascinating, is that it's a result of trauma. And what happens with the brain when we are exposed to trauma, we have a stress response. What happens to all of us is when we are in stress, it activates our sympathetic nervous system. So we go into fight or flight when that happens. And our brains release hormones, mostly adrenaline and cortisol when that happens. So as children, when that happens, and it happens on a regular basis or a continuous basis, it can actually cause arrested development in the limbic system part of a child's brain, in the part of the brain that is responsible for emotions, for the emotional regulation for a child. And so what happens is, as they grow, while the prefrontal cortex part of their brain can continue to develop, there can actually develop a lag between the prefrontal cortex, which is the reasoning part of the brain, the judgment part of the brain, and the emotional center part of the brain, which is the limbic system part of the brain.
This is why I wanted to have you on the Mel Robbins podcast. And maybe it's because I'm a lawyer. And so I love how you research. But I want to take a highlighter. And I want to highlight this right now for you listening. Because if you've never heard that narcissism is not something someone's born with, it is created in childhood. It is the result of repeated trauma. And what Rebecca is explaining to you, and this piece of it is critical, that the trauma during childhood, emotional neglect, physical abuse, whatever the trauma may be, it causes arrested development in the part of the brain that is responsible for someone's emotions.
Yes.
And what does that mean? That means that while their prefrontal cortex, or their thinking part of the brain, is like fully functioning, their emotional part of the brain is lagging. That's why somebody who has a narcissistic personality has so little emotional control. And when you start to understand, oh, wait a minute, the thinking part of the brain goes forward, but the emotional one literally stops. If you've ever dealt with somebody who's narcissistic, I bet they spin on a dime. I bet all of a sudden they can rage at you. I bet all of a sudden they're like irrational. And when I started to realize in my own brain, oh, wait a minute, this is something that a narcissistic person has no control over. This is why they're so unpredictable. This is why they're immature. This is why they can say such mean things and be like, I never did that. It has to do with the delay in the emotional development while the thinking part of the brain is proceeding. And this is really important for you to understand because this is not your fault.
Yes.
There is nothing you can do to change this. And getting yourself all wrapped around the axle because you got somebody in your life that tantrums at you like some 8-year-old. This is part of how the brain developed because of the, you heard the word again, arrested development in the limbic system. And this was critical for Rebecca to learn so that she could navigate the courtroom, so that she could be a savvy negotiator, so that she could get into the courtroom or into the deposition and win.
Ooh, child. That was a lots of information. And just to think there are 3 types of narcissistic people. Now we probably can get somewhat of an understanding of what Melody has gone through dealing with Martel foolishness. And if you have listened to Ressa Tessa's story, these men are case studies of a narc. But please go and watch. This video is like an hour and a half long, but it's very informative. Because we really never heard about these people until now. We see them more and more and more. We probably just looked over them all our life, but now it's just standing out more. Thanks for watching this video, and if you didn't like the video coming in, you can like the video going out. If you are looking for someone to do your intro song, please check out Brit's little brother, Shock Rob. He is the writer of Brit's intro. He will get you right. Have an amazing day on purpose.
She got the news, the stories. Come over here, no worries. If you're looking for the hot topic, don't worry, 'cause she got them all right. Keep it hot even when we in the winter. She got the best content, go ahead and pin now.